Hello, everybody. This is Imagine Old People, and welcome to a My Hero Academia What If this time. I'm actually not doing a Naruto What If. So, this is What If Deku, or What If Izuku, or What If Midoriya, whatever you want to call him, had all for one. So, AFO, all for one, would have been a villain, obviously, until the killing of Nana Shimura, in which he was severely damaged. He actually managed to find a healing quirk that returned him to normal, and during that time he would settle down with a woman known as Inko. Because of this settling down, he stops becoming a villain, and yeah, that means All Might never gets severely damaged, and he doesn't have to have a successor anytime soon. So yeah, he can continue being just All Might. So they adopted the last name of Midoriya, he adopted, AFO did. He adopted the name Hisashi Midoriya. And they would get married. A couple of years sorry. A couple of years later, they would conceive a son, and as I said, because of this, he would decide to throw his old life behind. All for one would. And I'm going to refer to him as Hisashi throughout the rest of the story. Yeah. And Dr. Ujiko, I think it was. I think that's how you pronounce it. I'm not really good with Japanese names. Well, at least not Japanese names like that. I can pronounce stuff like Midoriya pretty easily, but Ujiko, haven't gotten a pronunciation in the anime, so that's why. But he did kill Dr. Ujiko, and he destroyed all the Doctor's work, so all of the stuff that was the Nomu-related stuff, it was all destroyed. Like, nothing that All For One did is... Like, the League of Villains still exists. Shigaraki and, oh god. The Dark Cloud guy, the guy who could teleport people. I can't believe I forgot his name. That is... wow. So, the League of Villains still technically exists, but it's just Shigaraki and him. They haven't hired anybody yet, or recruited anybody. And they won't have the Nomu or anything like that. But they could, do all of, the random villains that showed up at USJ. So yeah, they could still get those guys, but besides that, nothing much else they could do. And so, they both had a son, obviously, known as Izuku. He would develop his quirk around the age of 5 and accidentally take Bakugo's quirk. Now Bakugo would get really sad and really mad, and he would call Izuku a monster and a villain, saying that only villains steal. Even after Izuku gave it back, Bakugo continued to berate him with hateful comments. One day, Izuku would run home. Hisashi would greet him at the front door and was going to ask how his day went. Izuku ran up and just buried his face in his father's shoulder. My quirk is bad. No, it's pure evil. I'm gonna become a villain. I stole Bakugo's quirk, Izuku cried. My son, no quirk is evil, and no quirk is good, Hisashi would say. It all depends on how you wield it, and I will teach you how to use this power for good. Izuku would stop crying, and the whole family, obviously, just the two of them and Izuku, would go to see a movie based off All Might that night. Although Hisashi knew All Might would hate him if he ever found out who he was, he would make sure no prejudice would come to his wife or child. Hisashi and Inko had moved Izuku to another school on the opposite side of the city, and Inko and Mitsuki actually still hung out. And Mitsuki would always apologize for how Bakugo had treated Izuku. But Inko always said, it's fine. We're doing great. It's fine. So, now we're going to time skip to Izuku, a year. He's 14 years old. It's a year before he would apply for UA. And so, one day, he was walking home from school when he found a young boy holding a terrified girl with long white hair. Izuku ran towards the two, and he saw that 3 figures were chasing them. Izuku saw the terrified girl and how she was clutching to the boy. They were trapped in an alleyway, pinned up against a wall, unable to escape the 3 figures. They were all wearing these plague doctor-like masks, all looking like they had beaks on them. Eri, you enrage me. Come to me and no one gets hurt, Overhaul would say, pulling on his glove like he did in the anime when he was threatening to kill Izuku and Mirio. So Izuku, in a burst of heroism, or like, I'm gonna be a hero, gathers the courage to act. Hey villains! He yells at them in a confident tone, I guess, as confident as you can be for middle school Izuku. Overhaul, Chrono, and Shin turn around, but they can't react. Izuku doesn't want to take any chances. He just says, "Last resort, ultimate quirk eradication." So this is a special move of Izuku's, which means he can basically steal all of the quirks of the people who he wants to, but it uses up a lot of energy. But he's learned to control that. The more quirks he steals in the one act, the more energy it takes, and he can take up to 10 quirks at one time before passing out. Overhaul, Chrono, and Shin go to attack Izuku, but the boy, who is holding Eri, runs up and uses his quirk. Quirk, Metal Factory, can create any object out of metal. He creates metal rods that protrude from each of his hands, and he drives the metal spikes through Chrono and Shin. He drives them through their hearts, killing them almost instantaneously. Overhaul whips around, ripping off his gloves and slamming his palms into the boy's face. Eri screams, and tears well up in her eyes, but she and everybody else realize nothing happens. "What?" Overhaul yells. "Why aren't you dead?" Did you not hear me? I eradicated your quirks, or rather, I stole them," Izuku said, smirking. "You bastard!" Overhaul screamed, charging towards Izuku in a blind rage. Izuku pushed his foot back, saying, "Itoshura," as a glowing turquoise aura appeared around him. Now, if you don't know what Itoshura is, go watch Chivalry of a Failed Knight. It is not like a great anime, but it's a good watch. I wouldn't say it's like my top 10, but definitely top 20, because I've seen a lot of anime. Although I would say most of those anime are not ongoing long series. They're all just one-shots, which is 12 episodes long, 12, 13, maybe 20 at max. Those are what one-shots are, one season, and up to 20 episodes at max. And they don't have that big of a fan base, although they are watched. Just companies are trying to produce different animes and eventually trying to find what that works. And if, different animes don't work, even though there's a fan base behind them, if the fan base ain't big enough, they're not going to redo it. And some are just genuinely one-shots, and the whole story is done in 12 to 20 episodes. So yeah, that's fun. So I will just explain Itoshura. Quirk, Itoshura, can boost someone's speed and strength for a short period of time, and can only be used once a day for a certain amount of time limit. Now, since Izuku just has this, he stole it from a villain who had it. He only steals quirks from villains, because obviously he'd be a villain if he was just stealing it from innocent people. But yeah, he stole this from a villain, and that's basically the police force says that Izuku, if he wants to, he can take the villain's quirks, but he doesn't have to. It just makes restraining them that much easier. So Itoshura is much more complicated than what I just put for the quirk, but for the sake of simplicity, it's just going to be a basic speed boost. It's like the Kaioken of this series. And although it can't get stronger like Kaioken, it can get longer. So even though he can only use it for about 30 seconds to a minute right now, sorry I said 5 minutes earlier, 30 seconds to a minute since, he just got it, it's relatively new, he hasn't trained with it. Over time, he can go up to basically make it like an indefinite sort of thing. He can just turn it on and off at will, although he still can only use it once a day. So once he turns it off, he can't turn it back on. That's a limit that kind of sucks, but is still just the best way to nerf it. "Now, it's time to finish this," Izuku yelled, dashing forward with speeds that none of them can even see, more than likely going faster than human perception itself. Izuku appeared right in front of Overhaul, as if he had teleported, his fist cocked back. "Eat this! Spinal lockdown!" Quirk, Paralyze. Can temporarily paralyze any part of any person or animal. And from this punch, Overhaul's spine is completely and utterly paralyzed. His whole body is. He falls to the ground, unable to move. The only movement he can make is twitching. Thanks, Broccoli Boy. I owe you one, the boy from earlier says. The boy had his long black hair in a ponytail, while the little girl ran up and clutched the boy's leg. Who are you? No, sorry. Who are you, and how did you take his quirk? The boy says. My name is Izuku Midoriya. What's yours? Izuku says politely, outstretching his hand. Kaito Chizaki. And you still didn't answer my question, Kaito says. They talk for a little while before All for One is revealed. Now, not like the person, the quirk. Deku's quirk is All for One. But he just says that his ability is to steal quirk. He's not going to say All for One. So that's your quirk, Kaito says with an awkward smirk. If that's the case, can you give me Overhaul? It was my brother, Kai's quirk. You know, the guy that you paralyzed, he's on the ground right now. I would like to have it. Although he was a monster, I'll always remember when he was a docile, loving older brother. And, yeah, that happens, and Izuku obviously is like, yeah, sure. And he gives him the quirk. Kaito immediately turns around and heals Eri, hugging her as she hugs him back. They both begin to cry as their nightmare is finally over. Now, if you're wondering, yes, Eri was still going through the same treatment, but Kai was, Kaito. Kai is, actual Overhaul. But Kaito, which is his younger brother in this story, was being abused by Kai because he would always try to stand up for Eri, and he would just get beaten the crap out of. Because although his quirk is good, it's nowhere near as good as Overhaul. So, after this, Izuku, Kaito, and Eri leave. Unbeknownst to them, a black warp gate opens behind Overhaul. Overhaul, all he can do is look back as a man with hands covering his body looks at him with a cracked smile. Well then, isn't that just wonderful? You're taken out before you even became a problem. You have a great brother, Shigaraki says as he puts his hand on all 5 of his fingers on Overhaul's head, turning him to ash and killing him. He then turns the other 2 bodies to ash, leaving no remnant of any event happening that day. But watching from the other side of the street, unbeknownst to Shigaraki and God, I can't remember the mist guy's name, but unbeknownst to Shigaraki and him, there was someone watching from across the street. A small, really small man who was wearing a complete black body costume with a beak and goggles. Those bastards. How dare they kill him? The other 2 were already dead, but... Kaito, Eri, and whoever you are, you green-haired brat, and whoever you are, you freaky motherfucker, I'm going to kill you all. We are going to kill you all. The short man walks away into the darkness of the alley that's directly across the street from the alley that the fight happened in. So, that's actually where I'm going to leave it off for this part. This has actually been relatively short, only about 14 minutes compared to my other 20-minute, Actually, I think my longest was like 20 minutes and 45 seconds. So, that's actually all for this part. Sorry that I don't have a lot. I just decided to, give a general backstory of our 2 main characters going into this. And so, yeah. I hope you guys liked. If you do, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. And as always, I hope you guys have a great day, great week, great month, great year. And I'll see you in the next one.